Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game here on this Tuesday. Let's talk some Titans and some draft with Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, and TitanInsider.com. Terry, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We are good. Let's just get this out of the way. Mike Vrabel has spoken. Think it's pretty clear that maybe there was some admitting without admitting. I don't know. That's my takeaway. But what did you think about his statement that he made earlier?
Yeah, I mean, he was going to have to say something about it sooner or later, and he chose later and, really, I guess, said the only thing he could say without completely admitting, that something was going on.
Which is par for the course for Vrabel. He's never going to tell you a whole lot, but that's just kind of the way it is. So, Yeah,
I mean, the fallout from this is going to be, it's already happened for Rossini as she resigned her job. But it remains to be seen, as far as Vrabel goes. If he wins, it'll probably blow over and be nothing. If he doesn't, then, it's always going to be some sort of punchline. I mean, I've already seen – you've probably already seen the memes, the pictures, the doctored pictures of Vrabel now with Adam Schefter.
Oh, yes. Yeah, which I had a pretty good laugh at those. So, but and now he moves on to the draft and tries to have that distraction. But speaking of, the Titans currently scheduled to select fourth overall Thursday night. The chatter has already begun that Arizona could be interested in Jerewmiyah Love, or other teams may want to move up. Would the Titans move back? Let's say for a second that the Titans did decide to move back. Joe and I have constantly discussed, with Borgonzi's history with the Chiefs, that moving back to 9 with Kansas City, potentially getting pick 9 and pick 40 from the Chiefs could be beneficial, and that might be a good move for the Titans. What would you think of that scenario?
I'd be okay with moving back, but here's the thing. If I move back out of the top 5 or 6, I want 2 first-rounders. I want 2 guys that I can control for the next 5 years contract-wise, and I want them, at least one of them, to be high enough in this draft to be a blue chipper, because most of the people have been talking about this draft say they're only about 12 to 13, 14 maybe, guys who have true first-round grades. I got to leave there with one of those, then I got to leave with another one in the first round. So if the Chiefs are coming saying, come get a pick at 9 so we can take 4, instead of them giving me 40, I want 29.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that we go to this draft Thursday night, Terry, and I think the anticipation for this is fantastic because we don't know, right? I mean, it's not the simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What are the Jets going to do? Who's going to trade up with the Jets? Then the Cardinals get to go. Who's going to trade for the Cardinals? Who are they going to take? Who's going to be left at 4? Who are the Titans want? They won't Love. They won't, David Bailey. I think the drama surrounding Thursday night is unlike, Terry, nothing I've ever seen working in sports. This is going to be so much fun Thursday night. And I agree with you. There's a lot of unknown out there, but is there any chance you think it goes straight 1, 2, 3, 4?
I think there's a chance that it does. I mean, especially if the Jets are locked in. Of course, the Jets have 2 first-round picks. So I think the Jets are locked in at who they want at number 2. We just don't know who that's going to be. We don't know if it's going to be Reese. We don't know if it's going to be Bailey. We don't think it's going to be Love. And then the Cardinals are kind of the wild card in all of this. What are they going to do? Because they're just like the Titans. They could draft anybody, and it would probably help their roster.
Yeah, right.
So
go ahead.
So they're kind of the wild card in this. If they're going to stick and pick at number 3, or if they're going to try to trade down and, I guess, diversify their assets.
Well, it'd be great. The Giants go 5 and 10, and they really want the rumor out there. They really want one of the pass rushers, Bailey or Arvell Reese or somebody like that. And the fact that if they could trade with the Jets, get number 2, give the Jets their 5 and 10, I mean, we're talking chaos in New York City that's going to spread across the league. I don't think it'll happen, but I want it to happen. I want the chaos Thursday night.
Yeah, I think so. And I think when you've only got a limited number of top-notch picks, like I said, maybe a dozen or so, and there's only really one quarterback in the talk, and that's Mendoza, who's going off the board at number 1 to the Raiders. it does make everything else kind of thrown into chaos. It's sort of like, what happens in, during the regular season at the end, when you've got a whole bunch of teams sitting there, with 2 games to play and everybody's, got a 8-7 record that's fighting for a wild card. You want the chaos to ensue. And I think that you may get that on draft night, Joe. How
important are the Cardinals to what could happen to the entire draft board Thursday night? Because if you think the Jets will stay at 2, get their guy, I just don't see the Cardinals staying at 3. They've already got 2 running backs under contract in Connor and Algier. So getting Love, unless they get him and trade him out of there, I just think the Cardinals are the X factor, Terry, Thursday, because they need about 18 players and they need assets, and they don't have that right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are the team that could throw this whole thing, for a loop here and really kind of put a wrinkle into this. I think, like you said, they could use 8 to 10 good players. The Titans are not far off that either. They could use 8 to 10 good players themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see, do you go for one superstar? Do you go for one great player and try to add 2 or 3 good players, or you try to say, we'll forego the one superstar because we're not ready for that yet, and go back and try to get 6 good players out of this draft that you can help build around until you can find the foundational piece or 2.
All right, say the Cardinals make some trade and the chaos goes. It sounds probably a dumb question. The time between the picks is now 8 minutes. You're losing 2 minutes. So you got to be ready to go, right? I mean, no matter what happens, you got to have every scenario planned out, because when that clock ticks, man, you already lost 2 minutes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of what I'd say they're, in the Titans war room, or in, where they've been getting their board ready and doing all the mock drafts and the scenarios. They've had people calling around trying to, find information out from, the Schefters and the, Peliceros and Rappaports of the world, and anybody else that might have a line on some of these other teams as well. And they're probably, how the NFL networks, everybody, knows everybody or has worked with people, and it's also lying season. So you got to make sure
right.
that whoever you're talking to is doing their best to shoot you straight, or otherwise you could be left, in an embarrassing scenario. But I think Borgonzi and his guys are probably going through the situation, looking at every scenario possible. Okay, what if Arizona picks? What if Arizona trades to Dallas? What if Arizona trades to Kansas City? What if they trade to the Giants? That sort of thing. All those scenarios are out there on the table, and they should have a fail-safe out for every one of those scenarios as it comes up.
Terry McCormick is with us. Terry, I believe that at least a starting center or the right guard is going to be drafted this weekend, possibly both. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I think that the Titans need at a minimum 2 offensive linemen, if not a third one, if you want to go ahead and try to secure a developmental offensive tackle for when Dan Moore probably runs out at the end of this year and you're making a move next year. So I think 2 at a minimum, 3. I mean, ideally what would be nice would be to find your center, find a guy who can play guard, who maybe is a tackle prospect but could play guard in the interim, and then shift him over to tackle next year, because it's a whole lot easier to find a right guard than it is to find a left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you think this means, though, for Jackson Slater?
He's still in the mix, still competing. I mean, I think he's going to be in the competition for the center or guard spot, or both, or to be the backup there. A lot of this stuff we won't know till camp, but I wouldn't discount him. And here's why I wouldn't, is because Borgonzi's still a relatively new general manager. And even though Saul is a new coach, the general manager is the guy who puts the roster together. So he's going to make sure that every guy that he's put his stamp of approval on is going to get a fair look before they say he can't help us.
No, and that's a good one. And to a larger degree with Slater, when Dylan Radunz was drafted, right? I mean, it's like, oh, this guy was really good. And he wasn't really good when he came in. Good in college, and he came in. Now he's still with the Saints like that. But for the guys at the lower levels, I mean, they're looking at a guy like Jackson Slater like, all right, he was really good at that level. Can he take it to the next level? There's a lot of eyeballs on that guy to see if he can play, Terry, and I hope he's massively successful. I think there's a lot of good talent at the air quote lower levels, and Slater could be one of those guys like, all right, we need to take a deeper look at these guys on that level. Who knows? I'm hoping he's being successful, but I don't know right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the great unknown because you really didn't see a lot of him as a rookie. Of all the rookies, he probably played the least of any of them. So you're trying to figure out, exactly who he is, what he can contribute, and whether he's a starter, whether he's a backup, or whether he's somebody that's going to be a member of the practice squad. So I think that's what you're trying to determine with Jackson Slater, as you are trying to determine with the guys you're picking this weekend and the guys that, you've added throughout this offseason. This whole roster right now is basically in flux because you're looking for the 53 best guys that you can start the season with. And, the way this team has been over the last 3 or 4 years, would it shock anybody if they had 25 new players again?
No, not at all. Not at all. Terry, Borgonzi, you've dealt with them now for the last year plus. Any chance, Chase and I talked yesterday about the 7th-round guys. There's like a 2% chance those guys make a team. Any chance that they take a flyer on Pavia? Any chance? And look, the 53 spots are all valuable, but I'm telling you, you don't want Cam Ward running anymore. If it's 3rd and 1 or whatever, put him in. He'll get you a yard.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it would happen. I don't think there's a chance of it, but they do seem to like collecting SEC quarterbacks. They already have Levis and now Hendon Hooker, so why not add Pavia? And who knows if Ty Simpson's there at 35, draft him too.
Terry McCormick is with us. I want to hit a couple of position groups that I don't think we've put as priorities, but ones that I'd be interested in. And I want to start with tight end. It looks like Gunnar Helm is going to be the starting tight end for this team. They signed Daniel Bellinger. They signed Kylan Granson. David Martin Robinson's still on the roster. And I think they have one more. Could you still see them addressing that position at some point?
Sure. I think you could still add another tight end in this draft. And if he turns out to be a playmaker, all the better. Obviously, if you go Jerewmiyah Love at number 4, you're going to look for probably another blocking tight end, somebody to, maybe be an upgrade over David Martin Robinson as your inline tight end and maybe free up Gunnar Helm to play that H-back role a little bit more and be not only a blocker but a receiver. So I think tight end is certainly a position that's on the board. There are very few positions on this team that are off the board, in my opinion.
What about safety?
Well, you like what you have there in Amani Hooker, and you think Kevin Winston's going to, take a big step now that he's healthy this year in his second season. But, the safety depth right now kind of scares me on this team. So, yeah, I think if you can get a good guy in the 5th, 6th round that can come in, play some special teams, and be a third safety, why not?
With Salah's defense shifting to more of a 4-3, is there going to be more are they going to look at middle linebacker a little bit more than maybe they would have? And are the guys that they currently have, like Cody Barton, do you think they fit, or do they need to make some changes there?
That's a good question. I think, that's something that, they're going to have to try and figure out, where does Cody Barton fit, or does he fit? Where does Cedric Gray fit? Is he still your green dot guy or is he still your guy in the middle? And can he be your green dot guy? I think that's the interesting thing. There's only going to be one of those middle linebackers on the field in this 4-3 as opposed to the 2 that it's been for the last decade or so with that 3-4 scheme. So I think what you're talking about here is you got to figure out, what are you doing with Cedric Gray? What are you doing with Cody Barton? And, the other linebackers that Salah has brought in, whom he's familiar with, brought in as free agents and whatnot. And you got to figure out who can start, who's depth, and, how much do you need to address it? So, no, linebacker's not off the table either.
All right, Terry, last before we let you go, everything goes according to plan Thursday night, and Jerewmiyah Love is there at 4. There's no trades beforehand. Love's sitting there at 4. Do they take him?
I'll say this, yes, unless David Bailey's also there.
Oh, okay. All right, then.
the debate will begin. I'll just put it that way. Terry, appreciate it as always. We look forward to your coverage coming up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Terry McCormick, Titan Insider, Main Street Media, and a friend of the show as well. We'll react to some of those things. We're also going to run the simulator coming up at 1 o'clock. We're going to do that again here on Chasing Big Joe, 102.5 The Game.